okay if I can ask people who are standing? We're going to start in about 2 minutes. So if you want to take your seats, get your refreshments, and they'll still be there. For the students who are here for extra credit sign-ups will go to the back at around about 7 o'clock, as will the service hour sheets if they're not there already. Service hours are done based on sort of time here. So if you come now, please put the time you arrive and the time you leave so that we can actually track your club service hours. All right, so welcome everyone, and I'm sure people are going to walk in sort of a little bit as we keep going, so we'll get started now. My name is Simon. I am the president of the Associated Students at Pasadena City College, and I want to thank you all for coming out. Just so we can give you a bit of an idea of what the format's going to look like for tonight, usually our town halls start out with 1 or 2 specific areas and topics. So today it's going to be the academic calendar and the smoking policy. Those are the 2 issues that we're going to address. And then after that, we're going to open it up to general question and answer and concern platform. So you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions about anything PCC related and give any concerns or state any issues that you have or make any statements that you want. We'll take everything down, and if we can turn on the computer so that we can see that, we're going to be writing everything that's said from you guys down. This isn't just for us to give you guys information, this is also for us to hear directly from you guys on what you feel and what you need and what your problems are, what you do like about the calendar maybe, so that we can take all of that and build our representation. If you're not completely familiar with AS, we are the representative body of students. So all of the students, there are 25-some thousand on campus right now. We represent all of them to the administration, to the other groups, the faculty, the staff, and to the Board of Trustees on a whole bunch of different topics, including the academic calendar. So that's where we're going to start today. And so what we'll do is give you a brief overview of how we came to the calendar that we have now, a bit of a history, and then talk about some of the concerns we've had, how we've tried to help alleviate those concerns, how the college is helping to alleviate those concerns, and then hear any more concerns that students have, so that we can make sure that they're addressed properly. So this is the student calendar. I'm sure many of you have probably seen it on the website. As you know, we used to have a 2012-13 calendar that included the winter intersession. The winter intersession would normally run from January to February, and in the middle of February or the end of February, we'd start what we're in now, which is spring, and then there'd be a summer session. On August the 27th, the Board of Trustees voted to change the calendar, and they removed the winter intersession and created in its place the trimester calendar with fall, spring, summer. So fall, as you'd probably see, spring would actually now start January 7th, which it did, and then the summer term is from May 13th to August 2nd. So as you probably know, AS took a position against the calendar for multiple reasons, and those reasons still stand today. We believed that it was too rushed a decision at the time. We believed, based on the feedback that we had, that the students really valued the winter intersession and wanted to keep it. So far, that opinion hasn't really changed, although we're always welcome to hearing if it has. So please tell us, because if students really don't want a winter intersession, we won't fight for one. We'll fight for what you guys feel is right. The summer calendar, the summer part of the calendar has been the issue, and I say issue because it's an unknown right now. Since 2003, we had the what I would consider traditional, because I wasn't here before 2003. We had the 2-semester, 2-intersession calendar with a winter included, and what we've been told now, and what's happening now, is that summer is being turned into a 12-week session, which has within it multiple class start dates. So there will be some classes that run from May 13th and run through to June 21st, around about. There'll be some classes that then start the week after that and go through to the end of August 2nd, and some classes will run the 12-week period. And I don't believe we have a full schedule yet for what those are. Is that correct? Okay, we have a schedule of classes for it now? Oh, so we do have a schedule of classes, so we know what's going up. Go ahead. And this is Dr. Olivo, who is the Dean of Counseling.
So the majority of the courses, I've seen the first mock-up of the summer schedule. The majority of the courses are offered in 6-week increments, and with some being 8 weeks and very few being 12-week. So overall, the majority of courses will be 6-week and 6 weeks.
And of course, with the passage of Prop 30, now that we're rolling in money, in theory, we the college has put back a lot of classes into the summer 1 session. That's kind of what they're calling it. It's not really a separate session. It's just a part of the summer term. Unless there are any questions on that part so far. Go ahead if you want to go to the microphone so that we can hear you. And if there are any questions, I'll just say this, or at this point, you have 2 options. One is to go to the microphone and line up here and say your question or your comment. Or if you're not comfortable being on the camera, you can write it down at the back and we'll have someone ferrying them back and forth. So we'll read them out.
I know that Prop 30 passed, but I still think it's a good idea that we continue with the cuts of closing the campus during the spring break, as well as on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays during the summer time.
Okay. So you liked the fact that over the summer we had the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday schedule and without a Friday?
Yes.
Is that going to continue?
Be closed during the Friday and saving money.
Okay. Dr. Olivo?
So the campus will be open for staff to work during spring break, and it's simply because we're in the midst of implementing Banner, the new registration system, and for students to be able to apply and register using a new system. So we will be here working, and that's during spring break. During the summer, we are most likely going to be closed on Fridays.
Okay.
However, some academic deans have raised the point, especially in math and science, that they would want some of their courses to span across 5 days in order to help students through the material during that short time.
Okay, thank you. So the big questions that we had about the summer classes were, will they transfer? As we know, I was one of these students who often used the winter intersession to take that one class that I needed to make up, because I wasn't always the best student in fall. And, and then oftentimes use the winter to continue those sequential classes, so English 1A, 1B, 1C. And one of the things that the AS was told at the beginning of the discussions, towards the end of the discussion, was think of it like winter's just moving to summer. And that it will be bigger and better now that we have Prop 30. The question still then came, are they going to transfer? Because some of the UCs were saying that classes needed to be done in spring, and they weren't specifying a date for spring, they just said spring. The other concern was getting them transcripted in time, and whether or not the classes that you took in the summer 1 will transcript in time to move forward. So we have 2, so these are the big concerns we have, and if there are other ones, we want to hear them today, so we can either tell you how we're addressing them, or find a way to address them. So with the first part about transcripts and spring, and summer versus spring classes, whether or not they'll count. What I've been told now, and I believe this is moving forward based on something that Vice President or Assistant Superintendent Bell said, he was the Assistant Superintendent for Instruction on campus, is that all of the summer 1 classes will transcript as spring classes. We haven't had a full confirmation on that yet, but what we've been told is that if you take a class in the summer 1 period before June 30th, it will transcript as a spring class. So when the UCs or the CSUs receive it, they'll see that class was completed by the end of spring, not in the summer period. So that should alleviate that question, assuming that happens. The second problem that was raised was getting grades in the first place. So what we've discussed is that right now, especially in the fall, faculty had about 3 weeks to turn in the grades to the system, and then transcripts get prepared as grades turn in. And obviously, if classes end June 21st, we want transcripts out June 30th, that's a lot shorter of a time. We can't, AS, and I don't think the college can guarantee it's going to work smoothly because we haven't done it yet. This is going to be new. So what I've told the president of the Academic Senate and what I've told to the administration is that faculty need to be aware that they have less time, that they need to be turning in grades 3 or 4 days after the class is complete in June. And so what's been indicated is that we'll have multiple grade turn-in dates. So depending on when your class ends, there'll be a set date when faculty is required to turn in your grades, and then the counseling department and the admissions department can then process your transcript. So hopefully it will get out on time. So what I would say right now is that this isn't set in stone because we haven't done it yet and the college hasn't done it before. This is what we've pushed for right now. And I know that there are still a couple of concerns about the calendar in a more general sense. This is where we are right now. So with the two big problems, the summer 1 classes will transcript as spring, so the UCs will accept them as spring classes. And and grades will have to be in at a certain time for them to transcript out. And the faculty will be made aware of that, and it's going to be on them to do it. So if there are any questions and concerns about the academic calendar before we move on, there's the microphone line.
Hi, guys. So first, I want to thank you guys for the work you've done on this calendar. I really appreciate the extra mile you've had to go to try to make these classes transfer. And honestly, that shouldn't be your job as our student government. That should be the job of our administration to make sure that our calendar is in sync with UCs and CSUs. So thank you for taking on this extra work. I appreciate it. And again, that definitely shouldn't be your responsibility. Our administration should be aware of what transfers and what doesn't. My first concern is actually to that matter. We were promised in a full-page ad in the Courier that summer 1 classes would transfer without any problems. And then we found out shortly thereafter that as it stood then, classes would not transfer. And now I'm hearing from you guys that you've done an extraordinary amount of work and classes might transfer. My concern is that it's January and applications are already due. So people have already applied to transfer in next fall. I hope a lot of students did like I did, just hoping that something would work out. A lot of students haven't. So those students those students have been injured by this decision to cancel winter, and I think that as our student government, you have a responsibility to those students who, once winter was canceled, not sure whether or not summer was going to transfer because of mixed messages and misinformation. I think you guys owe them some representation, and you owe that to bring that to the Board of Trustees, that they really did wrong by those students, and they made a mistake that's irreparable. Those students didn't apply because, based on their understanding and what they were told by counselors at the school, by teachers at the school, by the administration of the school, they weren't going to be able to transfer. So those students missed the boat, and I really hope that you guys take that to the Board of Trustees with a lot of passion and a lot of fire, because that's important. I also don't have a lot of faith that this might transfer will happen. It seems to me unrealistic to cut the time that faculty take to turn in grades down from 3 weeks to 1 week. That seems to me like a huge cut, and I honestly, just based on my experience as a tutor grading papers, you know, you can say that transcripts and final grades are due whenever you want. That doesn't mean that that process is going to go faster. So I don't feel like the grades are going to be ready to transfer. And unless I see something in writing from Cal State's CSUs or from our administration that it's going to transfer, I don't believe it. I feel like they weren't aware of the concerns of transfer when they made this calendar decision. I feel like it didn't cross their minds at all. And I honestly feel like they don't know what they're doing. I don't have any trust in them to make sure that this is going to work. So unless we see something in writing, like, my concern is that they're just going to continue to tell you that we're working on it. It's already January, and by the time March rolls around, they'll still be working on it. And then it'll be too late, and those classes won't transfer, and they'll say, gosh, we worked hard all semester. That's not good enough. That's not good enough for the students that needed to transfer.
If I can just answer, I can't answer all of your question. And what was your name? I'm sorry. Sarah. I can't answer all of your questions, Sarah, but I will tell you about a personal experience that I've had with CSUs. I applied to 3 CSUs, and 2 of them sent me my application back, actually, because I indicated that I had required courses planned during the summer. And so I think they just took that generally as classes that would not normally transfer. And so my application was sent back. If anybody has had that similar experience, because you know, I indicated that I had planned to take that class during summer because I was under the impression that you know, it was going to be widely accepted by CSUs that the classes would in fact transfer. But what I've done is actually emailed all the admissions office for the schools that I applied to, telling them that, you know, I'm actually lucky because I was able to fit Philosophy 30, which is the class that was missing, into this semester. So I told them I have an augmented schedule and this is it. And for the most part, they were very receptive of that. I let them know that it is a change that was made by, the administration of our college, the Board of Trustees, and that originally we had been told something and that it had changed. So by indicating that to the colleges, I was able to, get my application resubmitted. For any of you who have similar situations or know friends, I would encourage you to pass on that knowledge to them, that they should contact the Office of Admissions of the schools they've applied to. And for the most part, like I said, they've been receptive of our situation as students who don't have so much control over the administrative decisions of our college. So.
One of the things that was also brought up to us was that communication would be happening with the CSUs, UCs, and I think the California privates at least, to inform of the calendar change. You are right. What I've actually communicated something similar to administration, that I want to see something in writing, that the institutions are aware of the change and that are aware of what our deadlines are. I still have not received anything in writing from those institutions, so I will ask the administration again to make that request, to have it in writing, and then as soon as I have it, we will put it on the website. If we have it, obviously. But if we don't, we'll also put that on the website, and I would look to do that within the next couple of weeks, because you're right, we do need to be moving quickly as an institution. Go ahead. Can you come up? I'm sorry, so that we can...
I would just like to suggest, Lord, I would just like to suggest that you guys give the administration a timeline. They've been aware of this concern since the very meeting at the CEC, where I think students, activists brought up that it would not transfer on time. And there was actually a petition circulated that you guys, I think, are aware of, that one of the main bullet points on that petition was that transfer for summer one was not possible or feasible and would not occur. So this has been a concern that the campus community has been aware of since the original calendar decision, which was last summer. So they've had, 6 months, 8 months to get you something in writing to assist you. And so far, they haven't. So it's, it's already January. Students need to know. I think it's reasonable for you guys to ask them to get you that information in the next 2-3 weeks, so that students who are planning on transferring can take the steps that they need to make that work.
What I will communicate then to the administration is 2 weeks. And we'll communicate that we would like to see something in writing from the UCs and CSU systems that indicates that they are A, aware of our calendar change, and B, willing to accept summer one classes for fall 2013 transfers in writing. That is what I will ask for.
Myra's just telling me that the deadline to petition to graduate is February 1st, so that's something to keep. All of that in order to send that off to the colleges, because their deadline.
1 second then. So, Dr. Olivo, can you explain what that means?
Not a problem. And I do want to clarify, because there are continuing students who are, because of this discussion about do summer courses transfer, what we're talking about are students who have applied for fall admission. How many students in the audience have applied for fall admission? Could you raise your hand? So these are the students who they need to complete their requirements in spring. For the rest of you students, if you take summer classes, if we have them articulated to universities, which means we've worked with the universities to make sure they accept your classes, summer classes do transfer. So we have had that come up in counseling, where students are thinking, uh-oh, I shouldn't take summer classes because they don't transfer. That is an issue for the students who have applied for fall admission. So the students who raise their hand, if you have to complete a requirement for your fall admission in spring, then this applies to you. Do what we have this student who went and communicated with his admission office to let them know, I'm taking the courses in spring. How many of you had to submit an update to the universities that you applied to? Okay, great. When you submitted that update, you should have been able to communicate whatever information it was that the university needed to continue to review your admission application. If you need help with that, I would suggest that you contact me so that I can get you the appropriate assistance.
Thank you. And one of the things that I'll say is that on an individual basis, the best thing you can do is talk to your counselor and communicate to them exactly what you need for fall 2013 transfer, if that's what you've applied for.
And because it's such a critical need, just contact me directly and I will make sure that you get an appointment to see a counselor when you can come in.
On a broader level, though, I think that we still want to make sure that any student that isn't here or isn't aware of that, we can still cover their bases by making those communication steps ourselves. And because I think that's, as much as this is, students are able to, this is something that I believe the institution should also be taking responsibility for as part of the fact that this was a big decision that was made. So we've had a couple of things raised there. Are there any other questions or comments on the academic calendar? I know one of the things that some students I've been receiving mixed discussion on is whether or not we should be advocating for a return to the previous calendar. So if anyone has anything they'd like to say on that, they're more than welcome to, whether they like the trimester, whether they want to go back to the winter one, and what we should be fighting for as a group, or advocating for as a group. Go for it.
Well, I remember I remember one of the things when winter was canceled. One of the things I didn't like President Rocha doing was marching in front of the world on Colorado Boulevard in New Year's Day, when he's not making good decisions here at school for us. And one of the things what I've heard is that they will switch back to the 18-week session. I certainly do not want the 18-week semester session to happen.
Okay, there is a discussion about whether or not we should return to an 18-week semester. And as of right now, our position is that we do not want to return to an 18-week semester because 16 weeks is tiring enough, unless anyone would like an 18-week semester. The other discussion has been on how we schedule classes right now. So as you know, some classes start at 9:25 and end at 10:45. Other classes start at 11:35 and end who knows when. And so one of the things that's been discussed is trying to block those into half hours so they start on the hour or the half hour. But the problem that's come up is that by doing so, there's either going to be overlap because of the way that we have our class time set up, or we have to go back to an 18-week semester to do it. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out right now. Is there any more people you want to say something on? So if you want to say something, please just come right on up and line it right up there.
Hi, everyone. So just about winter session, I guess what we would maybe want to consider is that with our college having a completely different system than a lot of the other schools, it makes it difficult for students who maybe want to take a class elsewhere do so because, for instance, how are you going to start taking a class here and then have a completely different start date in another school? That would be really difficult to do, and especially because it was never discussed, it would at least be preferable to have students say in what the calendar should be, because the way it was done was without student knowledge or consent. It would also be good maybe to look at how we had it before, because we switched from having 2 back-to-back summers like 8 years ago because that second summer was under-enrolled. So it might be good to look at the enrollment, because I'm not sure how many students will be able to do 2 6 weeks back-to-back. The initial discussion of going to the supposed trimester was that, 6-week sessions are too grueling, we'll have one big 12-week session, and then it turned into 2 6 weeks back-to-back, which somehow sounds way more grueling than just having like 16 and then 6 and then 16. Now it's 2 long semesters, tiny break, and then 2 like short semesters back-to-back. Like, that does not sound pedagogically better than what we had before, and there hasn't been much discussion with students or like a vehicle for more student input about our calendar change.
Okay, well, the venue for it is right now.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that you believe that having the 2 16 weeks, not quite back-to-back, but essentially one after the other,
Yeah.
and then 2 6 weeks back-to-back is too grueling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, basically.
And if we were to be in a position where the 2 6 weeks went away, so in 13-14, if that summer was to just become a 12-week summer and not having 2 6 weeks, is that preferable?
Honestly, I feel like that buffer that winter provides for transferring students is very important. I mean, you're applying for your fall transfer. In fall, you have to get a certain amount of units done. Like, life happens, things happen. so that if a student for some reason maybe has to drop in fall or gets a bad grade in fall, winter is like a little buffer area for those fall transfer students instead of having to overload in spring and possibly have your GPA lower because maybe you're the sort of student you need that extra study time, 16 units is too much for you. Winter is a really important space because it does still transfer. So now we have our students applying in fall, and then something crazy happens in fall, you're overloading in spring. So that's one thing that I've been thinking about as far as like having winter there
Okay.
for our students. Yeah.
And that was one of the things that we communicated at one point, so we'll continue to do that then.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Hi.
Hi, I'm Krista Welter. I'm co-chair of the Calendar Committee, and I'm also on the board of the Faculty Association, and we're currently in mediation over the cancellation of winter. And one of the things, I just wanted to let students know that a lot of faculty really support you, and we have asked for a reinstatement of winter for next year. In terms of the Calendar Committee, I would like to invite people to come. It's, the Calendar Committee does not determine whether or not we have a winter or a summer, but we do talk about the calendar, and the original calendar with winter we worked really hard on and planned it, and it went through the entire shared governance process, and it was approved by all of the committees and sent to the Chancellor's office, and we were all very stunned to find it canceled without any recourse. So the Calendar Committee is meeting on Thursday, this coming Thursday. It's an open meeting. We do have a lot of work to do, but we welcome your presence there. And I think faculty need to hear what students want and feel. That isn't often part of the discussion. That's it.
Thank you.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's at noon in C217.
Okay, are there any other comments on the winter or the calendar change or any concerns about summer right now? Go ahead.
Two things. The first one, if there was a winter right now, the issue of whether or not summer would transfer would be irrelevant. Winter would automatically transfer, spring classes would transfer, so you won't have an issue. So if anything, by having canceled this, everyone's job, especially administration, they just have an additional headache. Second, as far as the faculty are concerned, faculty support the students 100%. Faculty association support the students 100%. So from that, I agree with what you said, and I think that's what Simon said was very important. It would be a good idea to poll the students to find out whether or not they want the intercession, the winter intercession brought back. Because there's no point for fighting for an issue that the majority do not want. So if there was to be a poll by the associated students to determine whether or not the majority of the students here on campus would like to have the winter reinstated, then they would find the support of the faculty association as well as the faculty. So I agree with the idea. Perhaps there should be a poll and take it from there.
Okay, thank you. And again, if you want to have any input, now is the opportunity, so please go ahead.
Hi, my name's Keegan. He was just talking about a poll. I remember on the PCC website, right before they changed the academic calendar, they were saying that they were going to do it, but then they also had a poll on the website, because I actually participated in the poll and I put no. But I think it was so clandestine that not very many people really knew about it. And I felt like even putting my opinion there didn't really do anything. Even though I was telling them, how I felt, I don't think it really made an effect, obviously. But I also wanted to second what she had said over here about summer back-to-back being too grueling. I know there's a lot of students like myself that work full-time as well as going to school, and I think having the break, between a very fast-paced course, in between courses that are more spaced out, the 6 weeks in between the 16 weeks, is much better for people in my situation, where we're working full-time and, going to school full-time, and it's just, doing both of those back-to-back is like almost inconceivable.
Fantastic. Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to make a comment about the 16 versus 18-week calendar, because my understanding from attending the Carnegie Hour discussion was that it's not merely going to be a discussion about whether we're going to stick with the 16-week or go to a full 18-week, but it's going to be a discussion about whether it's going to be 17 weeks, 17 and a half weeks, or whether you want to stay with the 16 weeks. So I just wanted to point out that that's probably going to be part of the conversation as well. And if we do go to an 18-week calendar, then I'm not sure how this whole discussion about winter, whether winter happens or not, is going to be an issue at all. So just
Okay,
wanted to bring that
thank you. That is correct. There are multiple ways we could go from 16 to 17 to 17 and a half. I'm not quite sure how we do half a week of a schedule. Go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to say that we did a petition in the summer and in the last semester. In 4 days, we had like 25% of the students saying that they want winter back. But a poll would be a great idea also by the AS. And I had a question. So for this year, because it was a rushed decision, the people who applied to transfer this year, they have to communicate with the administrations of the new universities, which shouldn't be the students, like they shouldn't worry about that. But for next year, people who are going to transfer, they have to go through the same thing again, because the summer won't transfer to the fall, so, or it will transfer, but they have to go through this process of, I don't know, and I don't know.
But this coming summer will work for the next fall.
For the next
But
fall.
the next summer won't work for the following fall.
Yeah.
So is that right?
Can we get some clarity on that?
When we work on educational plans with all of you who intend to transfer, how many of you want to transfer next fall? Fall of 2014. So when we work on ed plans with you, we will provide you with a schedule. If, let's say you come in the next 3 weeks, we would provide you with a schedule of what we think you should take for summer, fall, and spring. And we wouldn't include summer because when you apply for admission to a university, usually in our state, they do not accept summer coursework. You must complete your requirements by spring. And the reason for that is because summer is too close to the start of their fall. So if you do not pass one of the critical requirements needed for admission, they're not able to revoke your admission in time. So it's important for you to complete your requirements in the spring before you start in the fall.
So again, I think like bringing winter back is very important, because what if we couldn't finish the ed plan you put for us and the summer won't transfer, but if there's winter, we can always fit some class there and transfer in time.
So what I'm hearing is that the winter was, you believe the winter was still a valuable tool for that transfer, that makeup opportunity.
Yes, even if
Okay.
people are going to transfer next year, summer, they have to finish their classes before summer. Yeah, but what if something happened? If winter was there, they would take a class in winter and then be able to transfer. But since winter is not there, they have to either wait 1 year or finish before summer.
So thank you. I want to take one of the questions from the sheet, and then we'll go back to questions over here. Is it true that there will be 2 sessions for summer, or is it a myth? I'll say that for this semester, for this summer, we clearly know it's going to be 1 semester with 2 sessions in between, because we're scheduling classes that way. What I would like to know, though, and what we'll ask administration, is whether or not that's going to continue as a model into 2013-14 and 2014-15. Because if it is, then, and we do make the summer 1 issues go away, then the opportunity will remain, although it'll be a bit of a crunch. Although if the administration plans to convert the 6 weeks into just a 12-week, then we may have lost an opportunity. And I think that's something that we'll be asking. And unless someone wants to answer now, which I'm guessing they won't, because that's a pretty big question, I will find out, and again, 2 weeks we'll have an answer on the website. Okay, next, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Anastasia. I just had a statement to make. I applied to transfer this semester, and the counselors, they made the ed plan for me, and they said English 1A was the last transferable one. Well, when I applied online, it said that I was missing a major requirement, which was English 1B. And I just wanted to make the statement because it's not on the iGetsy, and the counselors seem to fail to put that on there. So then I was all stressed out trying to add a class, stuck in a class for 2 weeks to try to add it, and I'm going to crash and everything because no one told me. So I'm just saying how stressful it was. Thank God I got it, and I'm good because I had to do my supplemental. But so everything's straight. But I just wanted to make a point that the counselors need to know exactly what is needed, because then we're stressed out, and that's not really our fault because we had no idea.
Okay, thank you. That point's well taken, and we'll talk to counseling about that. So unless there's any more on the calendar, there's just one thing I'd like to mention, which is you have a couple self-help tools. If you go up to the Pasadena.edu website, there is this graduation initiative. Click it and fill out the form, and what it'll do is it'll send your file to the counselors, and the counselors will then review it and then tell you what you need. And the benefit of that is that you get it added to a list of priority, we need to add this class in. So if you click, and it seems our internet's down. Oh, there it goes. No, it doesn't. Internet's down. Welcome to Pasadena City College. So as soon as that loads somewhere, you can fill out the form, and the good thing about that is if they identify you as needing 1 or 2 classes to transfer, then the next semester they will work to build that into the schedule and get you onto it. Dr. Olivo?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, if you come and see a counselor and you identify that you still have a requirement that you need to fulfill, for example, yesterday at the counselor meeting, 2 of the counselors mentioned to me that they've had students that need critical thinking, a critical thinking requirement. How many of you know, those of you who have applied to transfer, you know what critical thinking is, right? The course. And so what I was able to do was get from the counselors, what classes do we need to add this spring so that we can include those so that the students can take care of their requirements. So if you have that information, it is informing us, and then I work with the deans to try and see if we can get those classes mounted so we can offer them to you. And that's such a critical need course. It'll fill with continuing students as well.
Okay, so unless there's any more discussion on the calendar, you have the tools on the internet, not on this computer, but on computers at home, I'm sure, and maybe your smartphones. And so go to Pasadena.edu, click the grad check, and that's going to be a good way. And we're going to do a survey, and like I said, in 2 weeks, I will either have some stuff in writing to say that there is some guarantee about how the summer one will transfer, or we will put that up there, that we have not received anything, and you better contact a counselor right away to make sure you're okay. And we'll keep on communicating with you as best we can. Second thing I want to talk about tonight is the smoking policy. And I'd like to ask Juan Diego Ashton, our Vice President for Sustainability, to do that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Juan Diego. I guess I'll be leading this discussion tonight. So basically, we're looking at, is the internet working, Simon? No. Okay. Well, I'd like to project the policy for you that we currently have at PCC, but maybe I can just summarize it for you. We are a school that does not allow smoking except in designated smoking areas. So we have a couple different designated smoking areas. Does anybody know where the designated smoking areas are? Okay, I'd love to show you a map, but I can't. So we're going to use our mental maps for this one. There's one in that direction. It's by the parking lot. So if you haven't been there, I'd recommend you check it out. There's also one in this corner of the campus. And in these designated smoking areas, we've now put benches. So they're a little bit easier to identify. They're old-fashioned benches. Before, they were accused of looking like sandboxes. We've tried to improve the look of the designated smoking areas, so then now there's a little bit of grass growing. There's not so much, there's the benches, of course, as I mentioned, and there's not so much, I guess before we had just put every ashtray that was scattered throughout campus in these areas, so it looked like a cluttered mess, but we've cleaned that up a little bit, so it's a little bit nicer looking. There's also one in front of the LL building. That's the building adjacent to the library. One of the best designated smoking areas that I would suggest to anyone who smokes. It's still kind of near a building. Does anybody know what the state law is for smoking in a public place? Okay, it's 20 feet from a building. That's just state law. And since we're a state agency as a community college, we have to abide by that law, and so does the rest of the state of California, I guess. So there's that rule, but again, our policy is that you can smoke anywhere on campus. So although there's a state policy, we have an additional policy that says you cannot smoke anywhere except for in those 4 designated smoking areas or wherever we tell you that is a designated smoking area. So just to clarify, we are trying to evaluate that smoking policy because, as you might gather, we don't feel that it's effective for students, for staff, or the campus community. So I'd like to hear some of your input for what direction you'd like to see us go. Just to give you some background, the UCs currently have a goal of going smoke-free. So they're transitioning. The CSUs would like to do the same thing, and that means no smoking anywhere on campus. I'd like to hear now from you if anyone has an opinion about smoking policy and where you'd like to see it go.
And you know what I'll say as a smoker is I think that the biggest problem that we've had has been the designated smoking areas haven't really been working, and that students haven't actually been using them. And so if there are any ideas on how we can make students use them, they'd also be welcome. And the Board of Trustees has made this a big goal. They want to have a change to the policy or something in a couple of months. And so for that, we really need to get your guys' input on how you feel about smoking on campus.
Hey, I just wanted to address the fact that, yeah, you were talking about the smoking areas being on basically all the corners of the campus. Maybe the reason why people aren't really using them is because they have to go so far. And I still see people smoking all over campus all the time, so it's obviously not working. I think maybe we need some areas somewhere inside of the campus, because then, people can still, they'll be more likely to use those areas if they don't have to go all the way across to the other corner of campus, if they only have like 10 minutes before their next class starts, maybe a suggestion.
I know I see Aaron out there. He's a big supporter of going smoke-free, so maybe I'd like to hear a contrasting opinion. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not against the smokers. I would like to work with the smokers and helping them quit. I do care about their health in general. I'm being dead serious. Like, I'm not, I don't hate them. I'm not going against them. I'm trying to help you as well as me and the non-smokers on campus who are affected by secondhand smoke. So basically, I go along with what Simon and Juan Diego are trying to do in reinforcing the policies we have on campus, because campus police does not do their job the way they're supposed to be doing it, reinforcing it. And I believe, my personal belief is that to improve people to go to the smoking zones, there should be a ticketing or fine and put in place. So that will help, and no, not only that, but the campus police here on campus to reinforce that. The way they're supposed to, because that's the only way. We could have as many, the fine could be $500 for smoking on campus, and if they don't reinforce it, then nothing's going to happen. So I'm not saying it should be that much, to make that clear.
Just to clarify, there is an assembly bill. It's called AB 795, so you can look that up. And it specifically states that the fine for a smoking policy would be up to $100 and no more than, it's not to exceed $100. So there is a policy that has been written by the assembly, the Congress basically of the United States of America, that very specifically gives the power to community colleges, to Cal States, and to UCs to enforce their smoking policy. So I guess this is a really big issue because there's actually legislation. So thank you, Aaron. Is there anything else?
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing I kind of go against what she had mentioned is making the smoking zones on campus, the suggestion of having smoking zones on campus, like closer in the middle of campus for more convenience. I don't agree with that because it's more hazardous for students closer to those zones. There's no way that we could, box them in. I don't see, you know what I mean? I just don't see it being effective. They have made their own zones on campus behind the art building and other places where they're not supposed to be, and it would be helpful if, you know, reinforcement, of course. But yeah, come up. That's pretty much it. I don't think that would be effective.
Thank you, Aaron.
So I don't smoke, but Aaron actually just brought up a really good point. The R building, I mean, now that the U building is like an empty hull, the R building is our tallest building, and half of the elevators don't work, so it takes forever to get up and down. And if you have a small break, it's really hard for anyone in the R building who smokes to get to one of like the far off like corners. So we really need, in between everyone like trying to quit or whatever, we still need somewhere for everyone in the R building to go, because it's way too difficult. There's only 2 elevators, you've got like 5 floors, it takes forever. If you have a 10-minute break, there's not enough time for our R building students to get to one of the designated corners.
So
That's it.
yeah, that is a common complaint about the smoking areas, that they are kind of too far from the R building. I have never measured the actual distance from the R building to one of the designated smoking areas, and I haven't timed it. But something that I've been looking to do is actually to quantitatively measure the actual time that it takes. I know that smoking is definitely an addiction. Nicotine is very addictive. And I know that it's a habit that's hard to break for a lot of people. But what we have to remember in evaluating this policy is that essentially it's a public health policy, and it's there to protect the health of everyone, basically.
Perhaps a mandatory jog to the smoking area?
Can I make a suggestion as well? I'd also like to hear what people think about fining, like monetary fines for breaking the smoking policy, whether we're smoke-free or designated areas.
So I'm a non-smoker, and I don't like walking through the cloud of smoke by the R building. I don't like that. But I also understand, like you said, smoking is an addiction, and I don't personally believe that punitive measures will cause someone to stop engaging in addictive behavior. I think that fining in particular, I would hate to see a student who's already stressed out and running out of the R building to smoke a cigarette and works full-time and goes to school full-time, and then they get a $100 fine, and then that's that straw that broke the camel's back. You know, that's that extra $100 that they didn't have this week. I think it might be a much better suggestion to offer resources to students to get them to quit. Quitting's really difficult. Not everyone knows how. Not everyone has the community support or the help or even just the knowledge on how to cope with their stress other ways. So I would like to see, if we are serious about decreasing smoking on campus, that we would do some of those policies, because I think that'd be more effective to helping our students on campus quit smoking and become more healthy, and improving, you know, the air quality for students like myself who don't smoke. I think that would be better. That way I don't feel like I'm, you know, just picking on the smoking students. I feel like I'm actually helping them rather than just punishing them.
Right, and thank you for that point. To that, to that point, I guess, we do have smoking cessation services offered through our student health services, and it's free. So we definitely want to advertise that more to students, and point well taken. One thing that I found, though, I don't know the exact numbers, but you know, it would be good to gauge again how many students are using the cessation services. And also, just to clarify, with any sort of a fining structure, there has to be an equal level of participation, or I guess you have to offer cessation services, which is something we already do. So, you know, there are parts of the policy that make it so that you can only fine people and make it a punitive punishment. It has to be balanced by some sort of support service. And $100 is, you know, I would say a relaxed fine for something of that nature. There are other, like littering, I'm sure you know, is like $1,000. And there are schools actually who will give tickets for littering cigarette butts to students. So, you know.
If I can address that situation, I went and talked to our health services here, and we actually had a discussion on how lax the publicity of our health services is here. And so I've been sort of working with the whole department to sort of promote our health services here on campus. I know we already have somebody in the Veterans Center that already goes there just for like mental health services for them, and it works really well for them. So I think if like we could also work, I mean, I don't mind doing this. This is something I was already probably gonna do, like a publicity campaign as in regards to like addiction and helping to sort of like get over that. I mean, not get over it, but just kind of like cope and help and give them the tools to kind of help do that. I think that would be really great. But I think with the smoking, I think the smoking policy is fine the way it is. However, like most policies here in this nation and as well as in this world, it is not enforced. The way it goes about sort of being enforced is not held up to the best as it should be. And I feel like, I don't know how we would go about doing that, but I feel like if we maybe could make some suggestions on how we could maybe enforce that, but as well as promote public health safety as well. That would be something that we could definitely take into account.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Please. One other, I guess, point, I have actually been walking around campus, and I know that we always generally talk about campus police enforcing our school policies and things of that nature, but a really powerful tool is also social enforcement. I guess we all have friends that smoke, but walking around, I found it really successful to just let people know politely, like, this is a doorway, for instance, could you please like smoke in another area where it's not so directly in contact with the doorway. I would encourage everyone else. I know that our outgoing Chief Perez, that was one of his big things. He didn't want to make PCC a police state by, fining students essentially. He wanted to see more of like a social enforcement. So if we take anything from Police Chief Perez, it's that we sort of enforce our own rules sometimes. And I think that's a really powerful statement because, we're 25,000 students or more, and I know campus police probably has like around 100 cadets. So we have a lot more power to enforce our own rules, and I think that a polite conversation isn't too much. So.
All right, thank you. So we're coming to the point where I'm going to be heading out for a cigarette. So there's just one thing I'd like to mention, which is March in March, and I'd ask VP External John Fraser to do that, and then we'll open it up for general comment and questions if there are any from the group. So, John.
All right, thank you, Simon Fraser. I have to lean down for this. For the March in March, anyone who attended last year's March in March knows that there was only the option to fly up. That will not be the case this year. We will have a bus, so any number of undocumented students will be able to come with us, and it's going to have to be first come, first serve, so if we get above 200 students, we will have problems. Good problems, but problems nonetheless. As far as what the March in March agenda is going to be, so far the California state budget is looking a little bit scary. So we're going to have more information out on that on the Associated Students website and social media. And we will also be looking to try to solicit student support for different legislative measures by trying to get students who are interested in these kinds of ideas to directly communicate with the legislators. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be posting a lot more phone numbers for you guys to call. If you have any kind of point you would like to communicate, the best times are going to be communicated as well. Because what happens is most of the time a legislator is not thinking about an issue, and then there's a committee meeting, and once the committee meeting happens, that legislator has forgotten everything everyone has told that person. So the important thing is to, when education is going to be on the agenda, to communicate what the students actually feel. And I wanted to just first bring up a point that student input in these decisions is incredibly important. when the Middle Class Scholarship Act, which would have cut tuition for students by 2/3 attending the CSU and UC if their families made under $150,000, 2 legislators voted against it simply because not enough students said we need this. And unfortunately, this ends up looking like a failure on behalf of the Associated Students organizations around the state, luckily not ours, but it does end up looking like a failure on the liaisons between the legislature and the students. So they did not clearly communicate what needs to happen, and the students did not communicate their perspective to these legislators. So the legislators have no choice but to ignore the students, because let's be honest, they're not going to spend the time to get our opinion by coming onto our campus.
And so, John, what is March in March?
Oh, forgot that important tidbit. The March in March is an annual march for higher education. It's a demonstration. It's not the typical protest where you would like to stop something from happening. We essentially go there as an organization of the government and students who are coming there in support of higher education. So the uniting theme is higher education. Last year's March in March, the topic was against the Cal Grant changes, which would increase the GPA requirements. This year's theme is a little bit up in the air still, so it's still in its infancy stages. In fact, the permits just got secured today, so more information on the March in March is going to be coming very soon. Classroom visits are going to be coming as well. If anyone is interested in working on the March in March or attending, please contact me at my email, which is on the internet under as.pasadena.edu. I'm under the executive board. I'm the person without a tie in the executive board picture. And one last thing, the March in March is free. In fact, we give you money to come to Sacramento for the day. So when you're coming to the March in March, you're really not going to be burdening yourself, especially this year because of the calendar change, which actually, in this instance, fortuitously placed March in March during the spring break. So there will be no more missing class on March in March. It's on a Monday, March 4th, and it's a day trip up to Sacramento and then back. If you have trouble waking up very early, please make an exception for this day. We usually meet in the parking lot around 3:30 a.m., if that. So it's a pretty rough day, but I haven't heard a bad story from it yet.
Thank you, John. So just so you know who we've got up here to answer your sort of general questions, we have Anna Torres, our Vice President for Internal Affairs, who runs all of our clubs. We have about 70 of them. Peter Torres is our Public Relations guru. Miranda Alvarado handles all things academic for us. John Fraser is our legislative guy. And Jordan Orozco is our cultural affairs person. So this is the opportunity now, if there are any general questions, concerns, comments, issues, problems, anything that we can help with, please go ahead and line on up. And don't be shy. Anything's fair game at PCC.
Thanks. I wanted to mention a little while back when Nolan was part of your group here, I had discussed with him about the issue concerning microwaves on campus. A lot of people are on a tight budget and go to school for very long hours. Like I have like a 13-hour day when I'm here. And so you definitely have to eat, but you can't afford to always be going to the campus center or any of these other restaurants on campus. And people want to bring a hot meal to class and to school and heat it up. So he had gotten a microwave on campus for me because I made some noise about it. And I noticed that someone had removed it. And I was wondering if there's other resources on campus that we can utilize, or if there's a specific reason why it was taken off, or yeah.
Hi. Okay, I want to answer that so I can answer something. Yay. So, well, we had a microwave before. What happened was during summer. Was it summer? Yeah. I was walking outside the piazza and started smelling like something was burning. And then, yeah, I guess someone was cooking microwaving popcorn, and then, I don't know, it just started burning. So, right now we are still in the process of studying on whether we should put it back or not, but if we are gonna put them back, which I think a lot of students have been asking for it, we have, our campus activities committee is actually planning of getting a new microwave for everyone. And actually, they're also planning to make the microwave look creative and cool. They're thinking of Hello Kitty or any other characters. So you can take Instagram photo, hashtag AS microwave. Yeah, so we're gonna get it back. Hopefully before this semester ends. We'll work on it, promise.
That's really good to hear,
Thank you.
because a lot of people, especially people with dietary restrictions, too. I also wanted to ask. Oh my gosh, how did I just forget? I was going to suggest that because of the situation with somebody burning the microwave, and that, of course, it's a fire hazard, perhaps we should find an area for it where there's either smoke alarms or some place where there's a lot of people present, like near like some sort of information booth or something, so that there's always somebody kind of there in case somebody puts something in and they leave it unattended.
Awesome, thank you.
We can look at doing that, and yeah, the last microwave was stolen by campus police after it exploded with popcorn, so that's what happened. And we'll get one back.
Hi again. I was just curious. I was up here, and after you came up, I was like, yes, that's exactly what we had talked about before with the smoking policy and the alternatives to smoking. And so in adding on to that, I was curious, is the health services adding more alternatives to help smokers have alternatives?
Okay, so I first heard Jo Busco, who's she's the health services, the guru, that's what I call her, she's amazing. We were first originally talking about bringing just like a public awareness of health services on campus. As far as smoking goes individually, I do not know. I do know that there is some sort of like, quote unquote, I'm not gonna say recovery because I mean, they're not alcoholics, but I mean like some sort of like you program to sort of help with the addiction of smoking. I know that we do have that on campus, as Vice President Juan Diego said, but I do know that if we do take this head on, that we will find what we do have, and if they can implement more, they're 100% and completely open to like questions and suggestions in regards to anything health services on campus. They're super incredibly open, and they're all very accepting. So that is something that I will do, and you'll see pretty soon within the next few months of where it's going and how we can definitely implement that with the smoking policy as well. So. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And just in case you aren't aware, health services is located in the D building. Every student pays a $5 fee, which goes to health services, which entitles you to a lot of the checkup services, free, low-cost prescriptions and drugs, and prescription drugs. And also this access to smoking cessation, and STD testing, birth control, a lot of issues that affect students. Are all taken care of there, and I think they do have an alcoholics program as well.
Everything.
Yeah, they have everything.
The world in one office.
If there's no one else that wants to ask us anything or bring anything up, you don't have to, but this is a perfect opportunity for it. Okay, so we'll recap. 2 weeks from now is the deadline that I will communicate to the administration to make sure that we get something in writing or look at other alternatives to having sure that students are guaranteed to transfer. And I think that may already have been communicated just by virtue of me saying it right now. If not, we will make sure that it is. And that will be at the front page of our website. Before this video will also go on the front page of our website and the PCC website, and we will post underneath it a list of all of this stuff that people have said tonight. Finally, the associated students, a couple things, March in March is coming up, so please look out for posters on that. We host our meetings every Wednesday from 12 to 2 in CC 212, which is just over there. They're open meetings. You're more than welcome to attend. And we aren't having one next Wednesday. We'll start again Wednesday, February the 6th. If you have any questions at all about any problems, if you want to find out more information, go to as.pasadena.edu. You can get in contact with all of us here. You can always get in contact with me. My name is Simon, and we'll be sticking around for a little bit after here, so if you have individual questions, you can come and answer them. And remember, if you have any issues individually, so not just the broad, what are we doing with smoking policy? If it's an issue like, I'm having trouble in my class, I can't get into a class, I'm having trouble using a student service, one of the things we do is help advocate for you on an individual basis. And we can do that if you guys tell us what you need. So feel free to come into our office anytime, which is downstairs in CC 105. Ask to speak to any of the associated students, and we're always more than happy to help you guys. Is there anything that anyone else here wants to announce before we wrap up?
Hi. So tomorrow there's going to be an event at the Wi-Fi Lounge from 3 to 5. It's called How to Get an A. It's sponsored by the AS Publicity Committee. It's an event from the Academic Support Club. They invited past PCC students, so pretty much PCC alumni, to talk about their experiences about transferring, before transfer and after transfer. So if you guys want to check it out, there's free refreshment. And there might be free food. Might. Don't quote me on that. Because it's 3 already, so it's past lunch. You know.
Anyone else? Okay, so go ahead and make use of the coffee and tea and hot chocolate at the back, and thank you all for coming, and we'll announce the next town hall towards the end of February. If you need extra credit or service hours, the sign-up sheets are all in the back.